So this is basically what people ask for when they first come into custom mechanical keyboards. We've arrived at a full size, can't even fit on the screen, mechanical keyboard. This is the Seal by Jingzi and Chin and co-produced by Vertex. Vertex did the angle and that was spectacular, and Vertex co-produced a lot of boards and they all look great. So you know this one's gonna be good. Why don't we see a lot of full-size customs like this? The demand is pretty low and the cost is pretty high. There's a big honker, like I have to sit back to be able to show you this and fit it in the screen. Business-wise, it makes little sense to make a lot of these boards. It's pretty high cost to entry because of the materials, so they're not gonna be able to make a product and be able to sell. It also limits the creativity you can have when designing a keyboard because a full size is just a full size. There's no real fancy things you can do with it. Here we changed a little bit. There's a badge or a key and some indicator LEDs, but that's as far as you can really go with front height and the typing angle. That's really it. For years, the best we really had in the custom mechanical keyboard space was a 96 or 98% layout, which compressed this area. So even the QK100, which is the one keyboard that has all the keys that most people want, it's compressed right here so you don't have the full navigation. Whether that matters to you, I don't really know. The big thing is whenever you have a big keyboard like this, you do want the 2U 0 key because 1U just feels weird, and with a numpad, people already have the muscle memory with the big thick 0 key. It's a no-no to have a 1U tiny little key. Off of the top of my head, the only other full size I can think of that's like this is the Austin by Drift Mechanics, who unfortunately isn't going to be making keyboards anymore. RIP. The fans of full-size customs are rare, but they're very passionate. Many people owned multiple Austins, but maybe that's just because they were fans of Drift Mechanics, because Drift Mechanics makes really quality keyboards. And the Austin, when it ran a few years ago, was not cheap. That big honker was $725. It was a huge board, big brass weight, but a really tough price point. Even in the peak of the pandemic, it's really hard to justify that price for a big keyboard like that takes up so much space on the desk. The Seal here is large and in charge with some interesting curves around, like right there. That looks pretty cool. The weight is quite massive. It feels quality in the hand. It does the tank for sure. One thing I have noticed is China manufacturing has started to pick up doing forced patina. So forced patina is like right there. See that weight right there? Yeah, so they kind of make it look old right out of the gate. There's also an included badge for up here, but I personally prefer having a key up there. There was too much patina and the badge was teal and the board is blue, so I figured it clashed a little bit, so I just put an artisan there instead. And if you want, you can force patina the entire back weight if that's something you're into. We'll get into the details, but this board right here starts at $415. In my opinion, that is a stellar price for something unique and large like this. That is a custom mechanical keyboard, like the old school way of doing things, not like all the features, all the mounting styles, battery, wireless, and all that type of keyboard. Looking from the top, we have a typical full-size layout with a full numpad. There's a spot for the badge where the designer really intended to showcase the Chinese aesthetic, which is the name of the board, Seal. The badge is a seal script from Chinese calligraphy from the Qin dynasty. It's a nice little ad because there's no other places for you to put some, creativity in this. It's kind of limited in what you can do with the design. Like I mentioned, there's a badge on the back as well, so it breaks up the big honking weight in the back. The board is a deep blue anodization from Vertex, and they do a great job. It's beautiful and pristine and is a showstopper while still not being too crazy like a purple or red board on the desk. Blue is pretty understated. Black and blue, very elegant. All the color options though, they look freaking beautiful. Vertex does great work in anodization, so you don't have to worry about that. It's been a while since I touched matrix coating. I think the matrix anodization and coating is a little bit better, but Vertex is really close, like within 1% in my opinion. So you can't really go wrong with Vertex anodization. The board is long, quite long, because most of the time when you see full-size keyboards like the pre-builts and the work keyboards, they're taller. There's more features up there, extra buttons, knobs, indicators. Here it's pretty slim and minimal, yielding a really long keyboard. Holy crap, my shoulder's getting sore. We do have our LED indicators, and I'm glad that modern keyboards don't require me to solder them anymore. Back in 2020, I had to solder in every individual LED. It was a pain. It's not hard, but it's finicky, and it doesn't feel premium to do it myself. The badge location also has an LED, so this key lights up. So it's maybe a good place to put a clear artisan if you want that flair. On the inside of the brass weight, there's a little cutout so it doesn't look like one big slab of aluminum, so you can see a peek of the copper weight here. Copper weighs an extra little add, but copper is super nice. We have a crazy front height here. It's really low. It's 16.5 millimeters without bump on, and the bump on's pretty low. I would say it's like 17 millimeters with bump on. The typing angle is 9 degrees, so this is pretty much a true low front height keyboard, and it feels great to type on. Low front height but flat feels kind of dull. High front height and steep angle is kind of balanced, but it's really hard to type on personally. I kind of like this 9-degree typing angle with this 16.5mm front height. The PCB and plates are not one piece. It is cut right here. The navigation and the numpad is its own plate and PCB. And the 60% plus F row is its own plate and PCB. This is interesting because I usually see a split along the numpad, but I guess it's a little bit more balanced, so it's just not all super weighted on the TKL side. I don't love ribbon cables, but because they're separate PCBs, you kind of have to use a ribbon cable to bridge it across. Pretty easy to install. It's just a straight line, not a big deal. Like I mentioned, this board doesn't have any batteries or 10 different mounting styles, so it's very simple. The mounting style is just top mount. It's an elevated top mount. I'm seeing this design more and more where the top mount screws through material, either rubber, in this case polycarbonate. In 2020, this kind of style was done with a burger mount with an O-ring on top of the plate and on the bottom plate. Very finicky to install, so it was my favorite. It didn't really feel or sound any different. Here, the polycarbonate cushions are a bit of a stiffer material. It's not as soft as rubber or gasket, but the designer's intent was to kind of cushion and reduce the vibration in typing. I can't really tell because this is an FR4 half plate, so the half plate is kind of driving a lot of my type feel, which is very bouncy and pretty fun to type on. But the PC, I don't really know if it's doing anything. I was hoping that little PC piece would act as a force brake to reduce any kind of ping and hollowness, but unfortunately it did not. Despite the large mass, freaking large mass, like 4.4 kilograms, something like that on my shoulder, there was a hint of hollowness. I find that this is generally pretty common in top mount boards. There are some that don't need it, but it's more likely that it does benefit from force brake than not. It's frequently the one mod that I usually do. It's not really difficult using the Tamiya tape that I'll link in the description below. It's like 30 seconds to install and then we're good to go. And here's a sound test I did after the stream with the force brake mod, and I think it sounds pretty good. In my opinion, it's still pretty weak on the numpad side. That's very odd. Probably the fact that it's just so far away from the main assembly. So yeah, it's a little bit of a drag. I personally don't use the numpad that much, so it doesn't bother me. If you want consistent sound across the entire board, even on the numpad, keep in mind that this is the most full sounding at that corner. As for the PC cushioning on the top mount, I can't really tell. FR4 Half is a great typing experience in my opinion. It's been a while since I've done that. Top mount FR4 Half is a really nice combo. I will say, with the half plate and the low front height, this is a really comfortable board to type on. I really enjoyed it. I just can't get used to it because I'm used to using a 65% or 60%. So my hand is pushed so far to the left because this board is huge. Too bad I can't use this for the office for work because these days we have hybrid work schedules, so we don't even have desks or offices anymore. We have to pick a new desk every day, so I can't just leave my keyboard there. So yeah, it's whack. I'm not bringing this to the office and taking it home every single day. With this board starting at $415 with a brass weight, this is an extra little add. The copper weight brings it to $455. I think this is a pretty solid deal. The copper weight isn't a necessary upgrade, but the enthusiasts typically like to see that copper upgrade, and it is a big fat piece of copper, so it's at least worth it. Now, we can't compete with the likes of the QK100 at around $200 with the plate, but that's still a compressed layout without the full navigation. So it's not a full-size custom mechanical keyboard. This is a full-fledged, full-size keyboard. No frills, no foams, no batteries, no multiple mounting styles, just a solid top mount sound and feel, and even has the half plate as an option, which I'm biased. I love half plates. And I'm also biased because I prefer the old style keyboards with a more timeless look. Like, there's nothing crazy about this. And the top mount. The top mount is something that I don't really get tired of hearing, so I like to have at least one solid top mount in my collection. There's a time and a place for these modern styles as well, with all the mounting styles and the batteries and the tri-modes and all that, and more aesthetically pleasing or creative boards such as the Matrix boards, but there's still a place in my heart for a solid, good top mount keyboard. And here we have a full-size option. Let me know what you think of this board in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.